everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, No More Secrets. As always, I'm your aunt, Mary Albrecht.
And I'm your niece, Katie Albrecht. And today we wanted to talk to you guys about making mistakes and kind of how to move past them. And the reason why I wanted to bring up this topic is because recently at work, I was talking to a coworker about a story that I had did, a mistake that I had made. And it was, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast, or it's at least in our book.
It's
in
Broken Neck. Broken Neck, yeah.
I've written about this,
Yep.
where I was dog sitting and a toilet overflowed, and it ultimately led to the ceiling in the basement kind of coming in, and it was a whole mess and everything. I mean,
Bashing a really expensive lamp, ruining a comforter, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal or anything.
It was like $5,000.
Was it really?
I think so. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm glad we're talking about this. This is about mistakes in this episode. So I was telling this to a coworker. And obviously back then when this happened, I felt bad about it because I'm like, yeah, this is a mistake. I had food poisoning back then. I was feeling really sick, and I don't know if I overused the toilet or what, but it just overflowed.
But you were throwing up. It wasn't even...
And towards the end, it wasn't even anything. I think it was just the rapid flushing of it or something, like it just didn't work. And I have since moved past this, and that's why I'm able to kind of laugh about it now, because I'm like, this was years ago. I've forgiven myself for it, and the person, Lorraine, has also forgiven me as well. Thank God. I mean, she's a saint for doing that.
Lorraine, just so you guys know, Lorraine is one of my clients, and it was like the first month or so after Katie had moved here.
Right.
And so it was like everybody was I knew you, but everyone was getting to know you, and Lorraine gave you a chance. And so it was a little awkward at first, but
yeah,
it turned out just fine. And you didn't do anything wrong. You had food poisoning. You couldn't help it.
And I was in an unfamiliar house, like the odds just kind of stacked up against me and stuff. But I mean, I told that story to my coworker as like a lighthearted, look, this is how stupid I was as a kid kind of thing.
Okay.
Thinking I would get a response of like, oh yeah, that's kind of funny or something like that. Because that's been the response of ours. Like when I tell that story, people see it as more of like a lighthearted story. But then this coworker saw it. I guess her response to me telling her was more serious and was like, remind me to never have you dog sit for me. And I was kind of thrown off by it. I think she was joking, but it felt a little...
Kind of passive aggressive though, like joke, but she's also really like giving you a dig.
Yeah. And I was like, I wasn't asking to dog sit for you.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
You missed the entire point of this story.
Yeah, that I made a mistake as a kid, and it was stupid, obviously. And that's what I was trying to tell her and everything. And I guess I was thinking that I was wondering why we do this. Like, it's kind of our society thing where if someone makes a mistake, it's like almost expected to hang it over their heads, or for them to hang it over their own heads. Even years later, I was upset. I felt really bad about that, but I don't let it hang over me to this day. You know what I mean?
And that was the point. You were able to share the story lightheartedly. Like, this is, something that happened to me and it was funny and we got past it and it's all good now, as opposed to, oh, you're still like that. Remind me never to trust you with my house, kind of thing.
As if I haven't gotten better.
Yeah.
Or I had no chance of improving or anything. I don't get why when people make a mistake, they have no chance to show that they've improved.
Yeah. And I think we were talking about that. I got confused with the cancel culture thing, but you were saying how...
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like cancel culture in a way, but that's but usually public people who make a mistake, sometimes even in the past, they pull it
out of nowhere, one mistake, and it ruins them.
And a lot of the times it's like something they did as a kid. It's not always. Sometimes it's more recent or whatever, but even still, if these people have apologized, why do we have to keep saying that they're quote unquote canceled?
Like cancel their series. It's all becomes political.
It's canceling the person.
Canceling a person?
That's what Twitter does.
Like, how do you cancel a person?
You would think it's not possible, but it's the Twitter mob, which is what I call it. Is like, it's just a lot of people who kind of gather onto a trend, and then they all are attacking a certain person for something that they did, and it could have been years ago or it could have been recent or whatever, but it's like the person's reputation is getting canceled. if that makes sense.
And then everyone kind of goes along with it because they don't want to be one to stand up for this person. You want to be like,
well, yeah, and
like the popular choice, which is to cancel this person.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. It's like the mob mentality where everyone kind of jumps in and then does the same thing, even though they might not know the context. Like
well, and this is social media related too, because it's pretty hard to cancel somebody like two generations ago, right?
And I don't think it happens in person as much. I think this is definitely like a
social media.
This is like a Twitter social media thing.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, I obviously didn't get canceled, so this isn't what I'm saying or whatever. This was just that I made a mistake, and that's just one of them that I've made in my life. I've made like hundreds of thousands of them, but like I felt like I was told to kind of be like, I don't know, hanging over my head and feel shame about it still, even though it's years in the past or years forward, and I'm not that same person anymore.
What did you say when she said that to you?
I didn't know how to respond.
Kind of just.
It was awkward.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to respond, and I kind of went, yeah. I was thrown off by it.
Yeah.
So I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't do any of that. I just said like
Okay, that's the end of that conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of the end of it. I don't know how else to respond.
It didn't go well.
I think eventually I was like, I'd like to think I've improved since then,
Well, and yes, she completely missed the point, and that reveals that person's character. I don't understand why she would say that.
I think she was joking, but it just didn't come off the right way. But
maybe,
who knows?
People are layered, but it did bring up a good topic, and
right.
You texted me, I think, a few days ago when this happened, and said, "Why don't we talk about mistakes and how do you forgive yourself for mistakes, and do you forgive yourself instantly, or how do you if it takes a while, that kind of thing." And I thought, that's great, because good Lord, every single human makes mistakes, and if they say they don't, then there's something wrong.
They're lying.
Then they're making a mistake by saying that, because that's
yeah.
impossible.
There's your first mistake, is that you think that you don't make mistakes.
And so speaking of which, we're hoping we don't make a mistake on this mistake episode.
Oh my gosh, we were so nervous right beforehand. We were thinking,
let's not make a mistake. We have to be perfect.
Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Yeah, we're talking about mistakes. I don't want to be a mistake.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so it's a great topic. So we ended up, I guess you ended up, I didn't even know we were doing this. You did a poll.
Yeah. So yeah, Mary doesn't do social media, so
I just don't even bother. Yeah.
So those of you that are listening that took part in our poll on Instagram and Facebook, thank you. We collected some information of, basically, I just wanted to find out if any of our listeners were also the type to kind of dwell on past mistakes, or if there was one particular mistake that they dwell on or they think about sometimes and everything. So I set a poll that said, do you find yourself dwelling on past mistakes? And 71% of people said yes, and 29% said no.
Because that was just a yes or no part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I find that interesting alone, that so majority of, at least the small sample size that responded, had moments where they've kind of like dwelled on mistakes. And I went a little bit further. So the guys that responded, 50% said yes. And then the girls that responded, 80% said yes.
Which definitely is a reflection of gender then. I mean, I do feel like women tend to dwell or ruminate or feel bad longer than men as a whole.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, we were talking about this with Travis right beforehand. He was saying that like guys, or maybe his mindset is that when he hears them or when he messes up on something, he just is like, okay, well, it's over now and that's it, And I think that's the same with like a lot of guys out there. Obviously, there's exceptions, but I think guys are more like, this is what happened, this is what didn't happen, and that's the end of it, like just more simple.
And I wonder if it has to do with upbringing too, because I feel like you and I tend to ruminate more than other females that I know, for instance, because we were always so beaten down with our choices and always blamed for everything. And, your father, my brother, held a grudge. If I did anything, if I said something 30 years ago, he remembered and brought it up. And so you start to doubt yourself because you're constantly being told that you're the bad guy. And so I tend to do something that is not even close to wrong, but I think I'm wrong because the person got upset, but I really didn't do anything wrong. but it's because of my upbringing that I automatically just take the blame even when I shouldn't. So I think it has to do with your health psychologically as well, you know?
Yeah, like kind of where you're at mentally and everything. Or maybe some people have made a really big mistake in their life, and that's the one that they dwell on. You know, like, I mean, we've had people on our show that talked about things that they did that were they were a mistake, and they obviously had to like move forward from it, but it was really hard to forgive themselves for it, you know.
Yeah, some of the big ones, you know, that we've had on the show, you know, just I can't even imagine how you have to forgive yourself or you can't live healthy. You know, you're going to just have a miserable life, you know.
Right.
So, but you had some of those
yeah, we had some
questions.
we had some responses. I asked what
If you did,
yeah, if you do ruminate or dwell on your past mistakes, how do you ultimately forgive yourself? And let's see here. I'm pulling up the responses now. Some of the answers we got. Do you want me to just read them?
yeah, go ahead.
So one of the responses was talking it through with others, which is kind of what we do. I like to just say it out loud and then, you know, get it out of my head, or I'll journal because that kind of helps.
And definitely talk it through with others that understand.
Yeah, that people that don't understand, it doesn't always help.
Doesn't make it easier. Like,
yeah.
like, oh, stop thinking that way. Oh, okay. Thanks for your help.
Thanks. That's really what I needed to
Calm
hear.
down.
You're right. Like, no, sometimes you just have to get it out of your head. And that's why I do like journaling, because if I don't have someone that can relate directly to it, at least my notebook will.
Right, and
they won't judge me for it.
Doesn't talk back.
It doesn't talk back or tell me that I was the stupid
overreacting.
one. Yeah, overreacting. Yeah. But yeah, so I like that. Another one that someone said was reminding myself that what's done is done and that I'm still here. So I mean, that's a good point, because while we're still alive, we still have room to grow and learn from our mistakes that we've made.
And Travis expanded on that. Travis is, you know, he was on our show about the cancer, but also he's one of our director, producer, marketing dudes.
He's
I don't know what he
dudes.
is. He's the peasant of a peasant is all I know. That's another story.
Something like that.
But he expanded on that by saying, not only are you still here, you actually have a life and people like you, so you can't be awful. Like, meaning you've got some success in your life, you've got friends, you've got goals, happiness, laughter. So, you know, you're here, but you're also here in a healthy way. So if you were stuck in a dungeon, then maybe you need to revisit that mistake.
Right. And then there's also like the ones, like, if you do make a mistake, like, you'll never make it again if it really affected you that much, you know?
Right. You hope.
Ideally. But I like to think if you're like emotionally affected by something that you did or said, or, you know, like, you probably wouldn't follow in that same pattern, you know?
If you're healthy enough. You know, I'm thinking about your dad, who just kept
I don't think he cared.
Okay, so he knew he was doing it. Like, it wasn't just.
I mean,
he
I
just
think
kept repeating the same mistakes over and over, though. I mean, he just.
But if it is it a mistake if it's intentional?
Okay, good point.
You know, like, he was the type that was malicious. I don't think everyone is malicious at heart, but I think he definitely was majority malicious and wanted to cause people pain, you know?
And then,
is that because he's in pain himself? Probably.
And cause himself pain too, though. It seemed like he was
pain too. Yeah.
He liked being the victim. He liked being the poor me kind of person, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like he would bring it on to himself.
I also don't think he ever thought that he made a mistake. So
interesting.
Well, I think you know how people project what they are onto other people. Okay. He would always tell my mom that she never thinks she's wrong.
Right.
Never thinks she's wrong. Never thinks she's wrong. Over and over again.
Yeah, he would say it over.
He would just repeat it.
And really, he doesn't ever. But think he's wrong.
It was him.
Yeah,
it was him. He didn't think he was wrong in anything that he did. So I think that was a big part of it. You know. So I don't think he.
So
believed
that's
he made
different
mistakes.
than somebody, that just keeps repeating it. Yeah, he didn't try to learn from anything because he didn't think he did anything wrong. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What a complicated mess he was. So we digress.
Yeah.
My entire
we bring
life
him up,
is
though.
well. I mean,
We bring
that's
him
why
up
this
all the time.
podcast exists for the most part, is because of our book, which was about him, which creates a lot of
He is the one that kind of helped us want to create something like this, because he was such a what'd you say, complicated mess?
complicated mess. There's no
Who's minimizing now? Mary?
exactly a complicated mess. Like that sounds like peanut butter and jelly
He
on the
wasn't
floor.
The nicest guy. Right, when he was abusive and manipulative and all that stuff.
While we're on this topic, real quick, my brother Steve had a terrible nightmare about Ken, about your dad, so his older brother too. Steve is 8 years younger than me, so Ken was 10 years older. And Steve likes to remember Ken in a good way. In fact, he talks to him in death, and he's always saying how Ken is a lot nicer now that he's dead, and that Steve gets along better with him now that he's dead. And we're like, well, yeah, because he's dead, but whatever. This is his imaginary mind. But he had a nightmare that was so sinister and so evil that it made him remember why none of us should ever feel bad for anything that we did in regards to him. Like, did we say something to hurt him? Did we not say something because we were afraid? Did we cut him off for money? Did we give him too much money? The dream was so sinister and evil that was like a force that couldn't be combated. And he just felt like everyone in our family should forgive themselves because this force was not something we could ever combat. So yeah, we made a lot of mistakes, and I always talk about my parents and how they made a lot of mistakes.
And we weren't perfect with Ken either. Like, I wasn't perfect around my dad either. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you snap back and you get mad. But Steve was actually saying we need to forgive ourselves for that, which was interesting because the dream told him that the force was so severe that there was no chance to ever do it right in any direction. So
it's interesting.
Yeah. So
I mean, I agree. I think we can get to the point eventually of forgiving ourselves with everything that happened with him,
Yeah. Different topic.
Different topic, you're right. So
I'll go back
to a couple more responses. Yeah. We had someone else say therapy, which
talking it through with somebody who understands.
It's kind of the same vibe,
thing.
Yeah, similar.
Maybe better sometimes,
Yeah, because then it's a professional that can kind of help you sort through why you think this way, and when you know why, you can kind of correct it, and then learn to move forward. Pretty much. Yeah, I'll always support therapy. I think that's a great idea.
Well, that's basically what we're doing here too.
I think we're therapizing each other a little bit,
and then trying to have people be okay with talking about this stuff. It's okay. That's therapeutic.
It's okay to talk about things that make you uncomfortable and sad
mistakes you've made.
And mistakes
Shocking.
you've made.
Yeah.
Like, you guys heard what I did, so I've done worse too.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't even. Yeah. Okay. And
okay.
Was that it then with the responses? Or?
No, there's two more.
Oh.
So I accept that I'm flawed and that I can apologize and that I can grow, know better, and do better. So that person seems like they're a little bit further along in their mental health journey. I feel like they've actually learned that from something. She probably went to therapy or something
sounds
like that.
Sounds like it. Yeah. That sounds very healthy.
Yeah, it sounds very healthy actually. But yeah, that's ultimately what you want to get to. And then the last one is by reminding myself that life is meant for mistakes. How else do we grow as human beings?
I really like that response because we are flawed as humans. And our whole purpose here is to learn and grow. Like we're supposed to. We're supposed to make mistakes, and then we're supposed to learn from it, and then we're supposed to get better, and then maybe make different mistakes, and then the next generation makes different mistakes, but we're supposed to continue to evolve as humans, and so to me that is what life is. And I think sometimes people are like, wow, how can things go so wrong all the time? Well, that actually, given last week's episode, what about all that goes right? Or 2 weeks ago with near death, really things go right a lot. And really we're here to make mistakes and learn. And that's the whole point is, so anyway, it's a sort of a different viewpoint, but that response really, I connect with that one because, if we're perfect, what good is it? We've arrived,
I think it'd be a little boring.
It would be boring.
Yeah.
To be perfect.
When you're learning and growing, it's when you're trying new things and you ultimately get to the thing that works after the several ones that didn't, I think it's like really rewarding.
Yeah. And what is that thing about fear? It's okay. Fear isn't about avoiding it. It's about facing it or something like that and getting through it. Meaning it's okay to be afraid, but running from it is what makes you ill. But facing your fears and getting through it. Same thing with your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but then denying them isn't healthy, or keeping them secret. That's another big one. Like if you do something wrong and you keep it secret, or you let someone else take the blame. Has that ever happened to you? Like for me, I'm thinking as a kid mostly.
Probably.
Okay, let me give you an example.
Yes,
please.
When
I was 5, and my friend, I don't know if it was Emily or somebody else, but I have different memories of different groups of friends in grade school that my mom was driving home. And we went to a Stop and Go, which was like a convenience store kind of thing. Yeah. And I stole a bubble gum. But
you daredevil.
I know. Let me tell you, back in my criminal days, that was my peak.
Wow, 5-year-old. 5-year-old criminal.
But it dropped on the floor. So I wasn't a very good criminal because I dropped it.
You didn't even get the reward.
But then the store manager blamed the friend that was with me. And
You let her take the fall?
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're probably scared at that point. What happened to your friend? Like, what was the repercussions?
The friend, the store manager said, you need to apologize. You need to put that back, or you need to pay for it is what you need to do. And so my mom paid for it. But then we got in the car, and then I cried. And I'm like, it was me that did it. It wasn't her. And I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. And so then Grandma, to her credit, she turned around and had me go back to the Stop and Go and talk to that manager and say it wasn't my friend, it was me. And
wow.
I'm really sorry. So it stuck with me, right?
Yeah, so you probably never stole bubble gum again.
No, I never stole bubble gum again.
Moved on to bigger and better things to steal?
Never stole bubble gum. That's the truth.
I mean, that's good. I mean, that's what you get from that. It's such an emotional response when you do something wrong, and then it obviously affects someone else in a negative way. Like, it kind of sticks with you if you have empathy and you're, care about people. Like, seeing people get upset like that or doing something, wronging someone like that, you learn to never do it again.
And so that's could be a whole parenting episode, because that's when you really learn and your brain gets formed with what's right and wrong,
Yeah.
And do you remember, it was only maybe 6 months ago, or everything's a blur with that thing out there, CC, in terms of time, but there was a story about a man's daughter that was in high school, bullying another girl. And he found out about it, that his daughter was the bully. And she had an allowance for a trip or something that she wanted, maybe new clothes or whatever. And he made her take all of her money that she was saving for herself and take that girl shopping and letting her buy all the things she wanted with her money as a way to apologize. So,
wait, I'm confused.
So meaning the father of the bully didn't defend his daughter. He's like, shame on you. Not only that, I'm going to make it memorable the way you apologize. And the way you're going to apologize is you're going to take your entire clothing allowance, let's say.
Oh, and you're going to the person that they
and you're going
bullied.
to bring her shopping with me, and we're going to shop, and you're going to be nice to her, and you're going to watch her pick out all these nice shirts, and then you're going to pay for them.
Oh, okay, I get it. And I thought you meant for herself, like he was punishing her by having her buy clothes for herself. And
right.
Like,
that would be bad parenting.
that would be in the mistake column. Yes.
But I just love that when I hear stories like that. Like, good for you. Like, your kids,
because so many real boundaries and stuff. Yeah.
Because parents are like, no, not my kid. No way, not my kid. Yeah. This guy was like, bring it on. No, I'm not my kid. I'm not letting her get away with that, because I don't want her to be like that going forward. And to me, that was excellent.
Well, I think I mean, we've talked about money a couple episodes back, remember? Mm-hmm. And how you said that you were like running up credit card debt, but then you didn't have any like repercussions from it because your parents just like kept letting you.
Yep.
Even though it was kind of under their card at the time, right? Like
one of them, there were several times, one of them was, but then one of them they just kept paying off.
And they just didn't say anything about it.
Nope.
Like, can you imagine if they actually said, if they did something like that, what this person did, but like with you and your money, like, okay, you have to pay for all of it.
Right. Oh, I'd be still paying.
Right? It'd be a totally different thing, but you would have learned faster because you did eventually learn, obviously, like that you can't spend more money than you have.
That's amazing.
And that's another like form of mistake that you kind of grow from,
That's a big mistake people make in terms with money, big time. I always wonder about those people that like win the lottery or whatever, and then they blow it all. I would ruminate on that one.
I probably would too. You come into like
how
an
did I
actual
end up broke
fortune,
again?
a literal fortune.
Yeah.
And you can't hang on to it. Yeah. And it's obviously a mistake, but you aren't taught how to handle it. And it's, a whole different thing. But maybe this does kind of go into parenting a little bit. Like if you teach your kids to learn from their mistakes early on, they might actually learn from them,
Well, and that mistakes are okay as long as you do the right thing and apologize and then learn from it going forward. Whereas I always felt like I couldn't make a mistake because I got instantly compared to Ken. If I made
even if it was minor, yeah.
One mistake, like if I got a B, oh no, not you too. You're not going to let your grades fall too. I can't have two kids that fail out of high school and and flunk classes. And it's like, I got a B. One, stuff like that. I was number 11 in our class out of 575 students. I was number 11 academically.
Can't relate.
And Grandpa says, "Oh, couldn't make the top 10, huh?" Like I was proud. I'm like number 11. I wasn't even trying.
See, that's when it's like kind of used against you in ways that it shouldn't.
Exactly. And so I always felt like I couldn't talk about mistakes. Like when I was nominated for the homecoming queen, and I didn't in my senior year, and I didn't make it.
Again, can't relate.
Let's just continue with this line of thought.
Let's talk about all the things that Mary has done right in high school. How good she was.
And am I pretty? You're like really pretty.
You're like really pretty.
Oh, there you go. You did it good. She just taught me that from Girls.
Mean Girls.
Or Best Girl. No,
it's Mean Girls.
Okay, what was the other girl one?
That's New Girl.
Oh, New Girl.
New Girl is like a comedy show.
Okay.
It's different vibe.
Okay. Anyway, so, but yeah, I got totally lost there. But yeah, I just.
We're talking about how great you were at everything in high school, but you still
right. Okay, homecoming queen.
Got it hung over your heads that you weren't the best of the best with your parents.
Yeah, I was on the court. I didn't win, and my dad was like, "So you lost," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, I was on the court."
Very logical.
You lost.
You didn't win, so you lost. I mean, he's not.
It's not wrong.
But he's not like, it's not very nice.
Not very nice. Or like second place, so you lost.
Which
and there's a saying that second place is the first loser.
I've never heard that, but I appreciate you.
There you go. So I won at being second.
Yeah.
I was first at being second.
See, it's all about perspective, right?
Anyway, enough about me. Well, for now.
Yeah, until the next thing, right?
But do you want to share with the listeners some of the mistakes that stand out for you that you tended to ruminate on? Is it getting better too as you get older? Are you letting things go better? Because for me, it definitely has. But
it does.
It depends on the mistake too.
Yeah, it does. And then there's times where I'm like, I still think about it. It's more so recently. It's things that I've like said to people, and I'm like, why did I say that? Or like things that I've done, and it's. I think about it afterwards, where I'll get like. If I'm honest, I'll get like some anxiety about it, like immediately following it. It's like usually the week or two following it.
Yeah.
And it typically coincides when I'm not actively journaling or I haven't talked to anyone about it. Like, so
starts to fester.
I'm just letting it sit in there and I don't let it out or anything. And then it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable and I just feel bad. And that's when I get to, that's when I tell Matt about it, and then he's like, it's over with. It's fine. You're fine.
Good talk.
Yeah. Like a classic
Thanks.
guy response, right?
Yes.
No, but it does help though once I finally get it out, because then I feel like I'm releasing it from whatever's happening inside,
Yeah. I mean,
I'd like to say that I could just like get rid of it like that, but it doesn't work that way. I have to kind of actively get it out of my system before I can forgive myself for things, I guess.
Yeah, and again, it depends on the person that you've gone to, as well as what you're trying to forgive yourself on. But there's all different levels. But I think I would much rather be a conscientious person than to be a rude asshole.
True.
Like, meaning I actually do care about what people feel in terms of my interaction with them, and sometimes I feel like maybe I hurt them. And
I just wish it was more like balanced. Like, I wish I could, for my own sanity and clarity and stuff, that I could just be like, okay, what's done is done. And, I did what I can, and obviously do what I can so that I can stick with that thought process and then just move on. But sometimes it doesn't always work that way, for myself, because it comes back to the whole thing of like, you can't really help other people if you're not good yourself,
Well, and then they can't help you if they're not good. So I'm thinking of I've had many blow-ups since that CC thing started out there. That there's like a thing going on out there in the world.
Never heard of it.
It's something with a C, which is why I call it CC. So
exactly.
And anyway, I've had many blow-ups because I'm just emotional about it. I don't like the way the world is, and I've got a lot of other stress, and I've reacted poorly to some people that have pushed buttons, and 90-something% of those people, well, it's not that many. There's only a few.
Just a random statistic that you're pulling out.
The hundreds of people but most people are like, what's wrong? Talk to me. I forgive you. Like, that hurt, but I understand that it's not about me. Like, those are the healthy people. But what if you end up, like, I was finally getting to a point where I was like letting things go better, but then you end up with that one person that isn't going to forgive you.
True.
And they just won't even talk to you about it. And you just are left feeling, lack of closure with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts messing with somebody like me when I can't even get to talk about it. Can we talk it through? No, they won't talk to me. But they still want to be in my life, but we won't talk about it. So there's that thing hanging again, that elephant in the room, just like with the whole Ken thing, It's like...
That's weird that they want to be in your life. I would understand more of like, okay, this isn't the type of relationship I want. Like, if that's how they are, and then they just cut
move
it
on.
off.
Yeah.
But to like let it sit and dangle is also weird for myself as well. Like, I would need to
sit and dangle and then give you a little bit of like tension and a little bit of jabs that are sort of passive aggressive, and then you're like, well, okay, this is not healthy.
So why are you doing that? Why are you here?
Right. And so, but then I don't have time to necessarily put the emotional energy into that. I got a lot going on. I really do. I mean, I know everyone does, but I got a lot going on, and I can't fall apart. I mean, I'm on the edge, with Jerry and Grandpa and, Steve and all that, and just in general, it's just really awful. So I can't necessarily stop and take time to emotionally invest in somebody else that I have to drag something out of, as opposed to just a mutual let's talk kind of thing. So that to me messed with me. That happened in the last few months with a friend, and I'm still tangled up about it, but I just try to keep telling myself I tried to reach out. I wanted to talk about it.
Try to fix it.
But
yeah.
So I'm just going to pretend like it's not there. It's not necessarily healthy for me, but for now, that's what I'm doing until I figure it out more.
Yeah, no, I think that's smart, and it sounds like you did try your best to fix whatever you think you did wrong.
And apologize. Because I
yeah.
know the way I handled it wasn't, the topic, I wasn't wrong about the topic, but the way it came out, the delivery was bad. It was hurtful.
And that happens when people get get emotional and just kind of let it build up and then explode out. It happens.
Right.
And the people that want to stick around will, and the ones that don't necessarily want to, well, they won't.
And it's sad, though, because sometimes you've known these people for years and years and years,
Right.
and you're like, what?
Oh, I didn't think you're going to respond like that. Yeah.
And, like, all those years don't matter because of this one thing. Like, it seems like it didn't equate. So I'm still ruminating on it.
See, and that's what happens. Like, because it's that kind of idea that when you make a mistake, either someone has to hang it over your head or you have to hang it over your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is, and it shouldn't be like that. Obviously, we're working towards being more okay with ourselves with that.
What happens in the workforce, for instance? I'm not really in the workforce because this business is mine, and I'm, it's batshit crazy. So, I mean, there's really...
Like, what do you mean? Like
But, like, let's say you make a mistake with something you were supposed to do. You were maybe supposed to upload something and you forgot, or you were late, to work or whatever. Like, do they forgive you when you're in an office setting like you are if you make a mistake, or maybe you don't ever make a mistake?
I haven't. I mean, I don't know if this is my mistake, but I got sick right when I first started, and that kind of was like, I felt like I was treated like an outsider because of that, because it was early on, and I've heard this happens, when you're new, they don't have like the trust built up and everything. That wasn't necessarily a mistake on me because I didn't do anything to get sick. I just got sick, especially this past year. You think it's a little bit more common, but I've seen other people make mistakes, like ones that caused an uproar in the whole office.
Okay. And do they get forgiven? And do they
Eventually.
get to stick around?
But you hear about it. Everyone hears about it.
Everyone hears
Especially in
about
a small office, like, and I don't know how it is elsewhere, but I've seen those people feel really bad because they're like, even little mistakes will sometimes get like kind of torn apart, like people act how in different ways, especially like in a small office. You get like very I don't know, there's just more drama or something. Just because everyone's so close, everyone knows each other.
Yeah, and a lot of it's family too, in your situation, so they know each other really well.
Right? Yeah, you've known each other for years, decades in some cases. Like it just happens, where people kind of act out towards each other. Mm-hmm. But then eventually it moves on and everyone's fine. But it just takes a little like mini outburst almost, and then it gets better.
Huh. I always wonder about that because I know, like in major, like large corporations, I think they give you warnings and then they put it in your human resources file. And then if you get like 3 of those, you can be let go or something like that. It's a paper trail.
Oh, I've seen that before. I don't know if that's how it is where I currently work or not, but
yeah,
but I've definitely seen that in different offices.
Yeah, that's a different kind of mistake, but it's kind of like, I don't know, that talk about being held over you if it's in your file forever.
It's in writing over you. Yeah.
Yes. So then, that's a different kind of mistake. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting topic, but I definitely know that I tend to take more responsibility for bad relationships and bad interactions with relationships than I probably need to, because I automatically just assume I'm the wrong one.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself that I'm not always in the wrong. Sometimes I am.
Yeah.
But there's times where I'm beating myself up about stuff I don't need to beat myself up about.
Exactly. And there comes the mental health and working on it, right?
Yeah. And sorting out what's actually right and what's wrong. And that's the biggest thing. Like, how do we know what's right and wrong when you grow up with a person like my dad who made it seem like everything was wrong?
Everything was wrong. And then the people around him told you to shut up because you didn't want to, it was my fault that he blew up because I would sass him or something if he was attacking me. Then that's my fault because I egged him on, but I didn't. It's like I reacted like a normal person would. Like, get away from me, you you jerk or whatever. Mary, don't say mean things to your brother. But he's attacking me. I mean, it was so ludicrous that you just can't even. So I think that people like that, like us, you just tend to you're always told you're the one that caused it. You're the wrong one. It's a terrible way to live. I'm really depressed now.
Can you imagine? I think about this sometimes. Like, if you make like a really terrible mistake, like you get into a car accident and accidentally like
kill somebody,
kill or really injure someone.
Yeah.
That's one of those situations where I'm like, how do you forgive yourself for that? Even if like other people forgive you because they know you didn't do it on purpose, like it was an accident or it wasn't your fault. But I feel like that would be a situation where I would probably have trouble letting that go. Other stuff I can learn to let go, but it's like stuff that's like very serious and obviously affect people and their families like that is.
I think I told you about one of my trainers that works for me, how her current husband had a fiance that he accidentally killed in a
you mentioned that.
So I mean, without saying names or whatever, but he's 24 years old. They're out driving on a beautiful day. He's got a seatbelt on, she doesn't. They're due to be married in a few months. He talk about human nature. You look away for a second. He went to change the radio station or something like that. He just looked away for a second, and his tire went off onto a gravel shoulder, and somehow the way it caught, it flipped the truck. And because she didn't have a seatbelt on and the windows were open, she flew out the window and died. And he lived, and he got knocked out. But when he woke up, there were paramedics there already, and she was dead on the road. And they ruled it an accident. I mean, they did all kinds of investigations and forensics and blah blah. But he was a mess. Like, how do you? But he didn't do anything wrong. Like, there's no way he wanted to kill her. I mean, good Lord.
Right.
And maybe you start to say, well, why didn't she have a seatbelt on? Maybe she was the one that made the mistake. But he had the hardest time with that. I wonder if he's really over it or not. But, maybe it just changes you. But it took him at least 10 years to all of a sudden go to her grave with my trainer who works for me, because he was just so messed up. And they went there, and he just sat at her gravestone and cried and cried and cried and cried, and just like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And it was like, I think she forgives you, kind of thing. And he was able to move on then. But what a story. I don't even know.
I couldn't imagine. Yeah, that'd be terrible. But
the human spirit, look at it. Like, he married her, and now he has 2 beautiful children, and he's got friends, and he's a productive member of society, and so
probably still sticks with him, but he's able to at least live some sort of normal life.
Yep.
Afterwards.
And just, I guess, self-forgiveness is way bigger than other people forgiving you, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
because we're stuck with ourselves.
Yeah, people will come and go, but yourself is for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's funny because Terry, sometimes with my husband, he's like, God, you're so maddening to live with sometimes, and your brain just drives me crazy. And I'm like, but just think how I feel. I'm stuck here. Like, I can't walk away from myself. You can go to another room, but I'm still here inside.
It's still spinning.
Doing this, and you just walked away.
Right. And that's the same thing. Like, you have to be cool with yourself when you do something wrong, ultimately, because that's what your life is about. It's about you.
And that's really all we ever have, like at the beginning and the end. Just, I mean, you'll have you for sure.
Yeah.
Till you're gone. So
maybe in the afterlife too.
Deep.
And you said you were depressed before all this.
Mental health, can be a kind of a deep topic for sure, but
healing at the same time.
But healing, yeah. And I do want to bring up one more point.
Okay.
Because there are people that actually, seem to be addicted, if not relish, ruminating about the past. My younger brother would be one of them. He saw an acupuncturist lately, and the acupuncturist said that he's got constant chatter in his brain about his past mistakes, and he almost is addicted to that chatter. So when he's actually feeling calm and okay, he's uncomfortable. So he goes back to something, and he just goes in circles about it, but because it's like an addiction, it actually feeds him because it's what he's used to. But it's actually affecting his spleen negatively, according to this acupuncturist, which that's a little bit of Eastern medicine, but whatever. The point is that I never really thought of it that way. Like, not like maybe he doesn't want to stop ruminating because that's what's comfortable for him. You know,
good point.
You know, some people don't want to stop their addictions. That's what they know, and he's hurting.
All forms of it too, yeah.
And it's not an addiction like where he could drive and run over somebody. He's hurting his spleen. He hurts my head a little bit because he talks to me all the time. But in general, he's not really hurting that much by ruminating. And so that's something that it's almost like it's an autistic thing almost, where you just start repeating the tape over and over, and maybe it's calming.
I think it's also an anxiety thing.
Yep,
Isn't
which
that
goes
kind
with
of what happens when you have anxiety. You're repeating all these things that you're kind of nervous about, or things that had happened that you didn't like or felt uncomfortable or something,
He even goes as far as, this is our family, this is the other brother, okay? He even goes as far as saying that he doesn't want to fix his past mistakes because then it'll just be a reminder of how many years he spent not fixing them. You want to look at the camera?
Just like Jim and Pam from The Office.
Mimicking The Office before this, just like, it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
I'd rather just keep ruminating on it rather than fix my life, because then I'll just be reminded of how many years I spent not fixing my life. But he doesn't want to do. Yeah, he's lazy.
I think he's just honest. I think people also think that too. A lot of other people out in the world. I think he's just more like chronically honest
about what
about wanting to ruminate about past mistakes because you don't want to like face them.
You don't really want to face them.
Yeah.
It's easier just to say that it that it sucked and that you made mistakes and you're a loser. Okay, let me just tell you how much of a loser I am, because
you're a pretty loser.
I'm a pretty loser, but I learned how to do loser on the forehead, but I guess I was doing it. Is this backwards?
If it looks right to you, it's wrong to everyone else.
So I was a loser at being a loser.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like,
you could say that.
It's like making mistakes on the mistakes episode.
Did you ever do that with learning your lefts and rights? The
No.
L's?
No.
Where like you look at your hand and the one that makes an L means it's your left.
What?
And then the one that doesn't make an L is your right.
What if you go this way?
But you don't go that way. You do it the right way.
Or the left way.
Good point. Okay, that's fair. But yes.
I never
No,
knew
just
that.
like face down like this, the one that makes an L. And I still do it while I'm driving sometimes, unfortunately.
Just to be like, okay, I need to turn
Just
left.
gotta make sure,
Wait, left. That's that way.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. It helps me clarify,
Did you learn that in childhood?
Yes, that is definitely an probably the elementary school thing.
Generations have changed. They didn't teach that in my era.
Huh.
Or maybe I just didn't learn it.
Yeah, maybe it was a new thing. Like they just discovered like, oh yeah, our left hand actually makes an L.
All right, so I got
Neat.
one for you. This is how we digress as we start talking. Yeah, like, oh, cool.
We said we were going to get off this episode like 10 minutes ago.
So I do this in class because there's a yoga pose or different poses where you might cross your right leg over your left. And so I'll say, okay, this is my right foot, but it's on my left side. So is it really still my right
Are
foot?
you guys confused yet?
Is this really my right foot because it's on the left side? This really right now is my right foot.
How does your class respond to this?
They're like, oh no, here she goes again.
I'm just curious how they respond to the inner workings of your mind sometimes.
Yeah, I just, it's a really deep question. It's like we're the foot on the left or the left foot. What's the difference?
Is it still my left foot if it's on the right side? world's like many unanswered questions.
And then at one time I was sitting next to the ark and somebody said, "You're sitting in front of the ark." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm sitting next to it." And well, like, you're sitting next to the front of it. Okay, but I'm not sitting next to it? No, you're next to the front of it, which means you're in front of it.
I don't get it. Yeah. It's another one of those things, and I'm just like, it's going right over my head. You know?
We have so much fun. I love messing with people.
Yeah, it's a good environment.
It's been good in the pandemic because they can mute me.
Oh, on Zoom, yeah.
On Zoom.
Or Blue Jeans or whatever.
Blue Jeans, yeah.
Yeah.
But the ones that come to class, nope, no muting here.
They're stuck with you.
Anyway, well, was that a mistake to bring that up?
Are you going to ruminate about it forever?
I might.
Yeah.
Maybe our editor will cut it out because he thinks it's a mistake.
He's shaking his head no right now.
Because he probably thinks it's kind of funny.
All right. Well, I think we can kind of wrap it up, but I appreciate everyone that submitted the poll entries, and I think this was interesting to talk about because it helps to talk about it.
It helps to talk about it, but just so you know, the ones that said no, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, I'm on a roll here. Never mind.
Yeah.
I like to have a good time. This
Yeah,
is my fun.
you never.
All right, people. Nope, you're never wrong. You're only different. That's what I always tell people.
The question wasn't if they make mistakes, it's if they dwell on them.
Oh, okay.
They're not wrong about that. They're just mentally at a good place in their life.
Because like I always tell people, I'm never late. I'm just different.
Yeah, that's
It's the same thing?
It's not the same thing at all.
Okay. She's going to put me in a timeout soon, so we better get off.
Yeah, she's going to have to face the wall with a dunce hat on her head.
Pretty one.
A pretty dunce hat. Yeah, I'll say I'm pretty.
All right. Feel free to respond to the... Is that questionnaire going to be up there anymore?
Nope.
Never mind.
That's how... Okay, so stories they delete after 24 hours. I'm teaching you, see?
They do?
Mm-hmm.
In what?
In Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Everything, actually.
Oh, all right. Good to know.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, people. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening and
Thank
watching.
you. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this week's episode of No More Secrets. If you liked what you saw, subscribe below.
And be sure to check out our website, thealbrechtauthors.com, where you can also purchase a copy of our book, Broken Neck. You better f***ing do it.